Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Cave Hour. I think it was last episode I was talking about how every episode gets fewer and fewer views, and that one got about 9, so I reckon we can go for about like 6 on this one, maybe. So if you're watching this right now and the view count says 7, fuck you. But also it's too late, so you might as well stick around. Something I also noticed is that 2 of them have dislikes too, which is it's pretty exciting. I don't know if it doesn't show the dislike the bar publicly anymore, does it? But yeah, that's how you know you are innovating correctly on the platform. You know, people aren't ready for cave-based audio entertainment, which is objectively the future of the entertainment industry at large. But if you happen to not be up to speed on what we're doing here, I've traveled to a cave. It's the same cave every time. Like, there's really not that many caves in my area where I live, but it's nice enough. Like, I've figured out my way around here more or less by now. But yeah, I hang out in the cave, and I record one of these episodes like once a week or so. And it's just a nice way to kind of take a break from life, you know, from the hustle and or bustle. And while I'm here, I just think of something to talk about from life. And there are 2 number 1 rules. And one of them is that there's no judgment allowed in the cave. So you're not allowed to judge. You're not allowed to judge anything that happens in the cave. We can judge stuff that's outside the cave. And the second rule, similarly, is whatever happens in the cave stays in the cave. Aside from, that I recorded all and uploaded. So, because there'd be no point if literally everything that happened here stayed in here, because then only I would know about it and I'd be a schizophrenic. But that, believe it or not, actually might be a good segue into what I was thinking about talking about today, which is creativity, because I'm a very creative and artistic person. I have been my whole life. But as I'm getting older, I more and more have come to think of being creative and artistic as almost being in line with some sort of mental illness or something. Which I know it sounds like maybe like a stretch, but if you think about the idea of what we think of when we think of an artist, there's this pretty widely accepted cliche and image of an artist as like the tortured artist, and people say that people make the best art when they're in a bad place mentally, or when they're depressed or something like that, going through a tough time. Mental illness and depression and sadness and trauma, all of that sort of stuff is celebrated in the art world. Anything from like Vincent van Gogh cutting his ear off to Frida Kahlo making art despite everything she went through. But it's not just painters and that kind of artist, it's musicians too, like Kurt Cobain committing suicide, and however many artists pass away from overdosing on drugs and stuff like that. And the thing is, not all artists are like that. Not everyone aspires to go out and just burn out in some blaze of glory and be super famous and well known for their craft. I mean, when's the last time you heard of someone, ODing or going out in some crazy murder-suicide in the children's book illustration sector, But, I mean, to be fair, if you think about it for more than 5 seconds and go a bit deeper than that romanticized image of the tortured artist, you realize the people who did go out like that, they didn't want to go out like that either. Who would want to go out like that? It's pretty fucking simple. But for one reason or another, that's how a lot of them seem to go out, and the whole tortured artist cliche, I'm wondering about where it came from in terms of like chicken and egg. Is there something about the lifestyle of an artist that is inherently depressing or traumatic or stressful? Or people who are mentally ill, unstable, or depressed, anxious, tormented somehow, are they attracted to art, or are they more likely to be creative or something like that? I know that for me, throughout different stages of my, creative exploits in my life, some have been an expression of maybe like a dark time or some dark thoughts, but I would say the majority like hopefully the majority of it has not been anything to do with that. At least not in a direct way or a meaning, like an intended way. I have made art that is about mental health issues or depression or like dark topics or thoughts or something like that. But I've made it from a really good place in my life at the time. When I was a kid, the art that I would make was mostly to do with video games. I would design levels or bad guys, or I would just sort of draw fan art. And then, sort of more into adolescence and being a teenager, it was still pretty much video game related mostly. Like I would try and make up my own Pokemon, stuff like that. It was around then that I got pretty into anime too. I would draw my own characters, and I would draw like fan art of existing characters I liked from shows I liked. And there was always this sort of vague intention to write my own like manga, which is the sort of written form, like the comic book form basically. But that was around when I really started, trying to develop somewhat of an identity and create some stuff that was my own, and not necessarily related to video games. Most of it was intended to be kind of twisted, kind of like a dark or unsettling feel to most of it, but it wasn't necessarily coming from my feelings of darkness, or I wasn't a disturbed young lad by any means. And then around when I was 17 or 18, I would sort of try painting a little bit, which I found was not really for me. I was very heavy-handed and impatient when it came to painting and learning how to do it. I remember for 2 of my art projects in my Year 12 art class, I did these oil paintings, one of which was, I think it was a bluebird, like bursting out of the edge of like a very thick bush or shrub, like forest, fucking whatever, I don't know. And if anything, that was supposed to be a metaphor for like overcoming depression or bad mental health or bad thoughts or something like that, which to be honest was less to do with me and more to do with someone to whom I was very close at the time. And then the second painting was a man on the top of a lighthouse during a storm, which I think was really meant to be about like hope and strength, and it was inspired by like the romantic era of paintings. And neither of the paintings were really any good to look at, but that was the idea behind them. I made a short film for my media class in the same year, in which a young man, he meets this girl in a park, and then he goes home and sees on the news that that same girl was killed near that park some like time ago. He goes back, confronts her about it. She reveals, yeah, I died, I'm a ghost, and my unfinished business is that I never loved. And so he keeps hanging out with her, but then there's this dilemma of if we end up loving each other, your business will be fulfilled, it will be finished, and you'll disappear. So, I mean, I guess that story's kind of tragic. Most of the art drawings that I would make after that time were not really about mental health at all, as far as I can remember. They were more just like, I don't know, fun, I guess, like a celebration of the aesthetic of a band I would like. It was around then that I started posting drawings and art in general to Instagram. I think a lot of the art actually that I would post was to do with Zen philosophy and the philosophy of like Alan Watts. I got kind of into that for a little while at the time. I forgot to mention there was definitely a pretty decent period, probably from when I was like 16 and 17 onwards, where I would make digital art by manipulating photos in Photoshop. It didn't really matter what the photo was of. I'd make it look like something so far removed from what it originally looked like that it didn't matter. Some of them would come out really sort of nice and warm and colourful, and then other ones would come out really dark and creepy. But I just made whatever I thought looked cool. And from when I was about 19 onwards, I started writing short stories. And that was around the time that I started sort of dealing with mental health issues in my own personal life, and I feel that a lot of that kind of did bleed into the art that I was creating at the time in the form of these short stories. But to be honest with you, the way that I would write these stories is I would very rarely plan any of what I was writing, because if I knew how it was going to end or what was going to come next, I would just get so fucking bored that it would become work, and I wouldn't want to write it anymore because I already felt like I had it written in my head and there was nothing left in it for me. Obviously, to be able to share it with people, you have to be, they can't read it if it's in your head, so you have to write it. But I did what I could to just have it all flow out as quickly as possible almost, and take shape behind my own back, or in some way that would still be surprising to me. I remember at the recommendation of a friend posting pretty much all of these short stories on I still to this day I don't really understand the website, if I'm being honest. I did zero research into anything to do with that, because I just took my friend at their word and did what they said to do, which was post them on Wattpad, which I think I've come to understand is kind of like, it's mostly filled with fanfic. I don't know, it's a very like Tumblr teenage girl kind of vibe thing, like type operation. I don't know, I could be completely wrong, but either way, that was where I posted my stories. And then after that, when I was probably 23 onwards, I started to write my own music. It was all acoustic, mostly acoustic instrumental music. And that's pretty much where I'm at today still, is working on that project creatively, as well as around the same time, actually, when I was 23, I started Jimmy Snakehands, which if you count that, which I do, I think this is a creative outlet. It's an artistic project in a way. And I started that around the same time I started sharing music. And now, having listed off my entire creative resume, or what I can remember of it, to you, I'm gonna try somehow to justify having done that, and try and make it relevant to whatever the hell I was talking about at the start of the episode, about tortured artists, and wherever I was going with that. But I guess what I can say about all of that is that none of it has seen any scrap, any like tiny iota of success, depending on how you define that. But, if you think about it intuitively, maybe it's just whether or not you make money or have a following or anything like that. I've been a complete and utter, total, complete failure my entire life. Up until this point, the closest thing, anything that I've ever made has come to being seen or noticed, is a YouTube short that I made for this channel, where it was me playing Trickster with a controller and missing a lot of my knives, not on purpose, trying to hit the survivor, and I edited the word shit on every miss, so there was a lot. And that, I think, got over 2,000 views. And then there was one recently that I posted where you can spawn zombies behind the exit gate on I say the new map, it's not really new anymore, but I haven't really been playing DBD at all since that map came out. The one that came out with the night, and you can see the zombie behind the exit gate, and it's kind of a bizarre oversight. That one's at like 1.7 thousand views, and there's been some other shorts that have taken off, and I've gained a few subscribers from doing that. None of the video game levels or characters I designed for Crash Bandicoot when I was 5 or 6 years old ever made it to the desk of anyone at Naughty Dog before they sold Crash Bandicoot. None of the anime drawings or manga ideas that I had ever were picked up by anyone. Not that they were shared. Not that any of these things were really shared in a way that they could take off. Which I think, honestly, I'm kind of torn about whether or not it's a regret of mine, in a way, like not putting more effort and emphasis on the sharing and the publication side of my creative endeavors. But to me, living in this internet era and this wave of this generation of people who live in a world where high school, diploma, having finished year 12 is no longer impressive. There aren't jobs that you can get with just that. You have to go to university and complete a degree. The sort of raised standards of the world, as well as just there being more people and the world being smaller than ever because of the internet and so on. All of these things kind of made putting effort into sharing and being seen and being noticed and trying to make money from any art that I would make, it made it all seem kind of counterintuitive and unrelated to the point or the reason why I was doing it in the first place. I mean, there's shit people can do today. There's these multi-instrumentalists who make these amazing compositions in their bedroom with a bunch of different instruments that they can play. They record themselves doing it. They produce it all themselves and so on. Like, if they were doing that before the internet, like, it would have blown people's tits off. But now we just have an infinite resource of artistic and creative entertainment at any given moment. You type in 3 keywords and just get hundreds of results. And if nothing that I do is ever going to be special to anybody else, then it's kind of, I don't know, a self-preservation technique as a creative person to just focus on my immediate surroundings and make art that is for me, and maybe as an extension of it being for me, making it for the people around me and maybe involving them in it as best I can, or making it with the intention to share it with them and get their feedback more so than anybody online or at large in any way. But I guess why I brought any of this creative stuff up is I was wondering, am I a creative person because I'm depressed, or am I depressed because I'm a creative person? And right now, at this time in my life, I am definitely creatively depressed, which doesn't really answer which one of those it is, huh? I think if you go over my creative resume that I listed out, none of that had to do with being depressed or down or sad. And I was really excited to sort of put myself out in the world. And then by now, having had no luck, no algorithm pick it up, from where I have put myself out there, not gaining a lot of followers on Instagram for my artwork, not getting fucking any reads on Wattpad for my short stories, getting fuck all views on my music that I post to my other channel, or SoundCloud or Bandcamp, just tumbleweeds, nothing. I guess I'm kind of disillusioned. I mean, even here with Jimmy Snakehands, I've been doing this for years. I just only recently broke 100 subscribers, and the thing is that none of this shit was ever even the point of why I would have wanted to make anything in the first place. But I've realized that nobody around me in my immediate surroundings is creative at all, and I'm realizing like it's been a huge part of how I felt so alienated and alone in a lot of my sort of more depressing times in my life where I feel isolated. I'm realizing a lot of that has to do with that I don't speak the same language as a lot of the people around me. I'm disappointed so often when I'll bring up my reaction to a movie or a story or an idea or a song or whatever I'm into at the time, and all anybody around me can say is like, yeah, I like it, or yeah, I don't like it, and the conversation just kind of falls flat. I mean, yeah, there are exceptions, but for the most part, I'm so alone in who I can actually express myself with, to the meaningful extent that I want. It's just been this kind of long and slow but inevitable process of realizing that the people around me, my friends, family, doesn't matter, like, if they're not creative, they can't engage in the way that I want them to. And it's not some sort of like narcissistic thing where I need people to like everything I make and give it all the attention in the world. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it's some sort of blind spot way that I can't see that's obvious from the outside. I imagine what is obvious from the outside is that, you know, if you're hearing someone say the sorts of things that I'm saying about their surroundings, then it's like, yeah, bro, you need to like sort out your surroundings. You know, you need to move yourself somewhere slightly different, at least. Which I suppose comes back to, honestly, like when I think about when I decided what I was going to like, what university I was going to apply to, the counselor at school would ask me like, you know, just what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Like what career path are you going down? And I would just answer over and over again that I didn't know. I had no clue. I had no interests. I wasn't interested in anything. I didn't want to do anything. And I don't think anyone at that age, like it's a kind of fucked up, insane amount of pressure to put on a kid. Because I mean, yeah, I might have been like 17, 18, but when it comes to deciding what career you want, I gotta imagine that less than, like, I don't know why I'm saying stats, like I'm completely making this up, but like less than a quarter of the people who, you know, apply to a university course end up like, you know, getting it, sticking with it, and then going into that career path and sticking with it for the rest of their life. Like, I don't think that's an unreasonable made-up statistic. I think I'm being overly reasonable, if anything. But I didn't say art, I didn't say filmmaking or any of the other stuff that I was into at the time. I really, honestly, speaking of blind spots, that's a really like, it's like staring into the sun trying to figure out why I didn't want to study something that I was actually interested in. I instead went and did a Bachelor of Arts, which is basically a nothing course. It's like a bit of everything. It was billed to me by the school counselor as like something that it's a way to go to uni without knowing what you want to do, and you can try a bunch of different stuff. And I fucking hated it. I dropped out like really, really quickly because it was fucking awful. But I think coming from the sort of working class area that in which I was raised and went to school, and like working class family and so on, stuff like that, there weren't really a lot of successful artists coming and going in the area, because I think that to be a successful artist, there has to be some kind of bizarre windfall or luck that you come into, whether it be some sort of online algorithm or privilege into which you're born in some way. Somebody has to know someone and put in a word, something like that. And I don't know, I had none of that. So I think that the idea of going to university to study something that I felt like I could just do on my own was quite bizarre to me. Like, why go study art when I can just study art online? I can go on Instagram, I can find art journals online and websites of people analyzing art and engage with it that way and make my own stuff like that, which is what I did. If I want to make a short film or a movie or something like that, I could just do that. And so now to retroactively try and think of not studying something like that as a regret, it's not the studying, it's not the degree or the university itself, like the academic side of it, or what I wish I had have learned that I feel like I've missed out on, but it's the being around like-minded people who are creatively inclined and are there because they're looking to meet like-minded creative people as well. And without all of that, yeah, you can make your own film in your own time. You can make your own art in your own way and so on, but you can't be successful necessarily without, I don't know, something that I have never had or never tried or never done. Which, I'm talking about it like it's all luck or some sort of inherent trait or starting gift, to use Dark Souls language. It's definitely not. Like, if I really committed myself 100% and made it a personal goal, my whole life, over all these years that I've been doing this stuff, to generate success for myself, I definitely would have put myself out there more and would be more successful. I mean, that's just, kind of a fact. But I feel hopefully like I've explained, you know, how that never really came to mind as like an avenue I wanted to take because it felt secondary or irrelevant to the act of creating myself. But either way, you know, I'm definitely hesitant to ever introduce myself to people as a musician or as someone. I kind of hate the word YouTuber. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but someone who makes YouTube videos. I also hate the word content. I don't know. I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time, I think. I mean, I grew up watching the YouTube where you could just make your own films with your own friends and post them online just for the fuck of it. And there was no precedent set for success on YouTube or making money. And so to grow up watching that, watching like Smosh and S&P films and stuff like that, to then, you know, now make my own videos in much the same way, much the same intention, you know, like I said about just keeping my horizons, not horizons, but like keeping my focus close, you know. It's like most of my videos, like the DVD moments, for instance, you know, it's videos of me and my friends, for me and my friends, and then if anybody else wants to join in, they're more than welcome to, but it's just, it's not the time for that kind of content to see any success, and it's kind of, it's unlucky and it's bad strategy at the same time. It's kind of two sides of the same coin, and I don't know at the end of the day what the solution is. I don't even know what I would be asking for if like there was a genie on the other end of this conversation. If a genie came out of like another room in the cave right now and asked me what I wanted and he'd make it happen, I don't even know. I just know that I feel pretty creatively like isolated lately. I've spent a lot of myself over a decade now making art in different ways, and it just kind of feels like there's this pressure to have something to show for it, put there by, you know, I guess a capitalist society and the internet. You know, I need that internet number to be big for people to like, if I introduce myself as an artist, if the internet number is big, then it's valid. If not, then it's not. I think I worry that people are going to judge the quality of the art that I make by the internet number when I introduce myself. Like if I put, whether it's meeting someone new and they take an active interest and they ask for an example and I open my phone and show them and they see that I have 20 something subscribers on my music channel that I've been operating for years, or 100 on the Jimmy Snake Hands that's been, you know, going for years too. If they're just going to sort of like politely nod from that point on in the conversation, like, oh, okay, so you're fucking delusional. You're not actually an artist. Like, you're just like a weird piece of shit. And then go into even hearing any of my music or watching any of my videos with this preconceived notion that it sucks because the internet number that they saw before the actual content itself was too small. Or if I put my content in my bio on like a dating app or something like that as a way to open a window for whoever's like viewing my profile and wants to see what I'm like, they can get a pretty good idea by hearing my voice and seeing the way that I move about the world, like the way that I talk and the cadence of my voice and so on. But I just think, well, maybe that's just like an active deterrent because the internet number is too small. And bad luck, right? And I'm definitely thinking about wrapping this up right soon because it's already gone longer than I thought it would. And I really don't want this to come across the wrong way, but even you as the listener right now, it's easy to just consume. I do this too when I consume music through Spotify or YouTube videos. I mean, even if I'm watching a compilation video of what someone's created over time, made by a fan, then that's sort of so indirect and far removed of a reaction that like the artist who made that, whether it's like just funny moments from someone who streams, right? The artist who made whatever it is that they made that I'm consuming, there's no relationship there. And so throughout the years of making videos without comments or any kind of active interaction, it doesn't really matter to me what the number is. And I don't think it ever really would. Like, it just, whether the number was 10 views or 1,000 views, like, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a number on a screen at the end of the day. So, but when I said I didn't want that taken the wrong way, I didn't want that to be like a manipulation of whatever two people have stuck this far in this video to feel pressure to like react in a way that's unnatural or something like that. I'm not entitled to comments or views or interactions or anything like that in an algorithmic sense, you know, like I've in the past said commenting helps my videos in the algorithm, so maybe, you know, leave one here or there, but that's different to what I'm talking about, you know, like a natural interaction. Like, none of what I have made in the Cave Hour, aside from I think 2 people in my life, 2 of my friends have mentioned that they watch it, and we've talked about it. Other than those 2 people, I've just been doing this in the cave by myself, and if it weren't for, like, you know, the sound of my voice reverberating off the cave walls, I'd just be doing it in the void alone to myself, which I kind of am. But, you know, that's my choice at the end of the day. Like, it's okay. I'm not sitting here like crying myself to sleep every night. It's fine. But either way, thank you, you know, for watching. And I do make it for myself first and foremost, but obviously I upload it for anybody else to enjoy it. And hopefully you did. And you know what? If you are one of the people who made it this far, I will, for the first and possibly only ever time, do a crossover episode between my Jimmy Snakehands channel and my music channel. I keep them separate, like deliberately. And instead of my normal outro song that's the same every time and never changes and isn't improvised in any way whatsoever, I'm going to put here in post a song that I've worked on that is unreleased, so it's super exclusive. I can't talk about my art stuff without having a really ironic and sarcastic tone because of how small the internet number is, and anytime I come across like I take it seriously, I put up all these barriers and attack myself for taking it seriously when the numbers are so small, which is unhealthy. So anyways, yeah, enjoy. I feel like I'm a radio host all of a sudden. Enjoy this song by me that has never been released anywhere other than here, but will be released on said music channel that I didn't say the name of. Maybe I'll link it in the description, okay? But it's like, it's probably the only time I'm ever gonna do that. So if you made it this far, then good for you, and hopefully you enjoy it. Goodbye. I'll be around. We'll talk.